have a rather strange setup going tonight. I'm streaming from what is my office. Sort of. Oops. Hold on a second. Of course, this is when I get texts. Give me a minute here, or ask some questions while I'm fielding this. It's been a while. I've been dealing with this piece of shit. Fucking motherfucker. He's got this cute little eyes, and he does that thing where he's constantly Googling at everything you say and laughing at everything you do to make you think that he actually thinks you're funny. But even the book, or even the website that talks about like milestones in infant behavior, is quite pragmatic when it discusses the rationale behind, or the reasoning behind infant behavior. And it says it pretty clearly. Does it to keep your attention. It's manipulative. Manipulative from birth. Children innocent? Huh. No, says I. No, says I. Hey, Michael Winchester. Carter Wright. Hi, Deadly Nightshade. Oh, Curtis, your emoji didn't work. Alex was here. Hello. Oh, I'm up to 900 and... Oh, now I'm resetting it. Alex was here. Yeah, we're all dead. Yeah. It's been, I'm purposefully trying to speak slowly and softly to make this sort of ASMR-y. It's been an interesting couple of years. I think since COVID sort of messed with all of our internal clocks. Maybe the vaccine messed with our internal clocks. It's just so bizarre for me to see things from like 2015, 2014. It feels like they happened a couple years ago at most. In a way that is new and different and frightening. A decade no longer feels like a decade. And none of us have many left. I have very few. Aw, it's very kind, Deadly Nightshade. Let's move this down a bit. How do we do this? Fix this. There was an update to Ecamm, which is my streaming software. So it's done some strange stuff. Yeah. His name is Henry. He's 4 months old. And I swear I'm 2 years older. Oh, thank you all. This is all super Like your name, Blazing Phoenix. Hey, Emily, it's been a while. Yeah, I had the opportunity. I wanted to test the setup I have upstairs. So I have a setup in my basement. And then I have a setup up here. And the basement is the more elaborate one, but it's easier to use this one. So I kind of wanted to test this one out. I was using the basement one for my last live stream. It's an interesting sort of, well, what it is embarrassing. It's an embarrassing tidbit about the last live stream that was about all of the cameras that I have and have had and the history of audio equipment that I've used for live streams and making videos. And guess what? The audio for that video was my MacBook Pro. I had the preamps and the microphone set up, but they were not routed properly, so the audio was just MacBook Pro audio, which goes to show still pretty good. But definitely, like, I listened back to it after I was, this definitely, something sounds off here. Sounds nowhere near as splendiferous as my usual audio. Playing D&D though, Emily. Good for you. We'll go back to playing D&D. Oh, my neighbor popped their light on. It's a signal to me. It's when they want me to shut the hell up. Pissed the vaccine didn't give you superpowers. Oh, Warp Raven. Wow. It has been a while. Good to see you. I find myself thinking back on the Beyond the Double Red Doors days with fondness. If anything, it kept me on top of current events because I had to think about stuff a little bit. Give a small amount of some cursory sort of understanding of what was going on. We do have two doddering old idiots competing for the presidency next year. It's terrifying. Terrifying. I mean, neither of them are qualified. That's the bottom line. Like, I feel like I could vomit up a better alternative to either one of those people, but at least one of them is not like as outright. One of them is not as blatantly stupid and narcissistic as the other. Biden might get us into trouble, maybe, right? And he's a murderer. But yeah, the other guy, whose name I shall not say because this is not Beyond the Double Red Doors. Although, this is what we said last time. Start World War III. Maybe it doesn't matter. Amy, good to see you. Glory to the House of Sailor. Well, this can be a superpower, right? You didn't know that. Can't you tell? I just feel it. Like, feel it around you. The death. It's creeping in. I mean, it's constantly trying to pound down your door, and you, as time goes on, you have a weaker and weaker means of preventing it from entering. One day it will. Oh, thank you, Wyatt. Wait, I think I possibly remember you. You might have called in. Yeah. Oh, wait, what does this do? Ooh. Ooh, I can adjust the avatar size, PFP size. Let's keep it around there. Life is death in slow motion. Truer words have probably been spoken, but those are pretty good. Ooh, we got our first thumbs down. Fantastic. Oh, well, here we go. If a room of your house had to be haunted, which would you pick? It's funny, my eldest son is convinced that the bathroom in his new place is haunted. I would not want my bathroom to be haunted. I mean, it would be a pantry or something, you know, a broom closet. For me, it would be the rear kitchen's butler's pantry. Not the main kitchen's butler's pantry, but the rear kitchen's butler's pantry. That's the one that I would choose to be haunted. I didn't watch the Super Bowl. I am, I guess, marginally interested in the cult of celebrity that kind of goes around this idea of someone who is famous dating someone else who is famous, and the portmanteau sort of monster that is created by the unholy union. Whatever, I think Taylor Swift is fine. She's fine. I find it odd that she is in her... I find it odd that she is the age she is, because her songs still seem to be very juvenile to me. I don't know. Her songs still seem to be mostly appealing to teenagers, which there's your good demographic there. And, she did the right thing by sort of standing up politically, even though she knew it would polarize her fan base. Then again, so did Eminem. JC, you've been dead since 2012. It's just crazy. And the movies that were made between 2002 and like 2015, 2013, let's say. Like there was a kind of movie that was made for a good decade, and I do think it was kind of 9/11 reactionary. We all wanted to be made to feel better about our lives. And I'm not really talking about like the Judd Apatow movies, although he was certainly, I guess, a part of that movement. Ooh, 2 thumbs downs. I love it. I love it. I'd appreciate that from anyone. If you want to give a thumbs down, please do. I also love watching YouTube videos where the person acts like they're really interested in what you have to say, and they really would love it if you left a comment because they want to know what you have to say. Like who, at some point, like you have to kind of just acknowledge the engagement bait there and not pretend like that. Yeah, leave a comment to up the engagement and increase the ad revenue I get from this video. It's almost like those React videos where you see people, you know they've seen this movie before. You know it. They're acting like they haven't seen it. They're acting like they're going to be surprised. but you know better. Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze turned 10 today. Yeah, this is what I'm talking about. Shit is just, time is relatively accelerating. We were all young back in '89. Shit, I remember The Simpsons airing on the Tracy Ullman show as bumper cartoons, actually drawn by Matt Groening. Michael, you've been saying Deadpool a lot. You're clearly interested in the new Deadpool movie. I liked the first Deadpool. Second one I liked less. I guess I probably liked Deadpool more than any other Marvel movies, but that's not really saying a whole lot. I think Ryan Reynolds is charismatic. I think I've kind of had it with the shtick, though. I don't know that I can really take another Deadpool movie. Alex. Oops, wrong mouse. It's true. Especially if you know the truth about the building of the pyramids. Yeah, it's funny also, right? Like Gen Xers get a little bit of short shrift when it comes to generational discourse. People talk about boomers. They go from boomers to millennials. They completely bypass the Gen Xer. Not a millennial, not a boomer, Gen Xer. Definitely empirically, Gen Alpha is better, but Gen X is good. That's a good name for a generation. Yeah, Carter, you felt young in 2019. 2019 feels like not long ago, right? Like it feels like we just went through some kind of a time warp, and it's not stopping. And now he's flashing his light at me. He's really not happy with what's going on here. I don't know, man. So there was a breed of movie that was made during that decade. And there are tons that I still haven't seen. You know, they typically star Zach Galifianakis or Ben Stiller's wife. Usual suspects. They all look very similar. Right? I know Apatow made a bunch of movies that are very, very similar. But like I said, I'm not singling him out. There were just a bunch of those movies made at that time. They don't make them anymore, and I honestly, I kind of miss them a little bit. I've been watching the latest True Detective. I have thoughts about it. As someone who had a crush on Jodie Foster when I was growing up. And she starred as Ellie Arroway in Contact, the movie made of the only novel that Carl Sagan ever wrote. It's quite a distinguished honor. And she starred in that movie with Matthew McConaughey. Connections. Matthew McConaughey aged well. Jodie Foster aged well. And I think she's great in True Detective. I think she's actually upstaged by her partner. But she's very good. But I don't like the writing in True Detective. I don't really like the dialogue. They have characters that seem to kind of go nowhere, come out of nowhere and then go nowhere. And they had a character say the subtitle of the series twice. And they like doubled down on it. He's in the night country. We're all in the night country now. Just like the trope of people repeating something for emphasis and then like saying the name. Like imagine we're a movie, right? Imagine if the movie is 22 Jump Street. Speaking of movies made in that time window. If the captain said, y'all are part of 22 Jump Street. Y'all are in 22 Jump Street now. Ludicrous. The audience would laugh, and not for the reason you would want them to be laughing. And I love horror. Love it. It might be my favorite genre. Of movie, anyway. And I love suspense, and I love mysteries, and I love when you don't know how things are going to mix, or they're not like super traditional, or and I love a good sense of place, and the new series of True Detective definitely has a really good sense of place. You know, they I can't believe it's only 6 episodes, but they spend a fair amount of time on establishing shots, and you know, make sure that you can see out the windows when you're in interiors, and or they shoot through windows into interiors. It does not feel like it was shot on a set, and they're trying to hide something from you. It feels like they want to show you where they are. And I really like that. I enjoy that quite a bit. It was a thing when I designed games. That was always really important to me. Like a personal design philosophy that literally came from playing a couple of LucasArts adventure games. I think probably came from like Full Throttle and Day of the Tentacle. A sense of place, a sense of like you're on these static screens, but what you do in one can affect the other, right? And it makes it feel like if I change something here, it changes something over there, and that increases the sense of place. Oh, that's super kind. Oh, I didn't have a choice in existing, but thank you. I have not read Ancillary Justice. I'm a little turned off from AI at the moment, but trying to get back into it. And yes, I did watch Saltburn. Yeah. But let me get back to what I was saying. So whenever I would design something, it was always important to me to instill a sense of place and feeling like something belonged, that you belonged, or that characters belonged in ways more than just existing. So like, let me think of an example. Yeah, so Elder Scrolls Online, I remember wanting to do things and trying to do things about the politics of place. So if you're playing Elder Scrolls Online, it happens during a war between 3 factions. And those factions are roughly aligned with some of the races in Tamriel. And I remember, pushing to try and get this storyline in there where the specifics of it are eluding me, but it was basically like one race they were outcast, they had come to an accord with another race prior to the war breaking out, right? And once the war broke out, they were in a weird position. Like, did they leave? Did they come to some kind of accord with the local enemies? Would they get held prisoner? What would happen to them, right? So stuff like that always made me feel, maybe sort of doubles down on, like I said, the sense of place, in the sense that you have an effect on the world. I'm sorry, leaving this up. Oh, Nightshade. Wow, that's very sweet. Deadly Nightshade, thank you. So I was talking about, not sure what the deal is with Enola Holmes. Like, I knew the moment that I saw the name of Enola Holmes, I was just like, when is the scene? When are they gonna have the scene where she sees her name in a mirror, and then goes, "That's why I feel so alone." I love The Witcher. Does my experience in the game industry make me hate any universally beloved games? No. It does make me have, opinions on, like, the discourse now has come back up about diegetic versus non-diegetic player signaling. Specifically, why does everything have to be painted yellow to let the player know where to go? And I think in that case, like, I feel like that the outrage against that comes up every few years. Like, anytime there's a particularly egregious use of it. And I think I think it comes from a place of idealism in games. Like, there might be a creative director on a game who is like, well, I don't want in my world, and this comes from world building, right? In my world, I don't want there to be a door that exists in the world that you can go up to unless you can somehow get in there, right? So every door that exists in this world has to be functional now. It could be locked. Maybe you can't get in it now. And in single player narrative driven games, that makes perfect sense. But now apply this to, like, a massive open world game, and all of a sudden you're running into the problem of, shit, in order for this place to look like an inhabited city, it needs to have a ton of fucking doors, which means a ton of fucking interiors, and also a ton of fucking interiors where there's nothing for you to do, right? So what might you do there, right? You might have certain doors that are blocked off. You might have a lot of doors that have piles of junk in front of them that you just can't access. You might have a certain kind of door that has a certain kind of lock that's really, really obvious to the player, like a giant barred lock that just shows you can never go in there. You might do something like Vampire did and have flu written on it or something, right? There's a bunch of diegetic ways to convey that information to the player, and even though they are in world, they're not really realistic, right? They're just trying to get that information across to the player without something like a giant yellow X. And you have games like Dead Space where clearly, the director of that title had a vision and wanted everything to be diegetic, and including your hit points, right? And he has that tube going down his back. They designed his outfit so that you wouldn't need to have a hit point display. When you look at a map, he's looking at it on his wrist. It's a little hologram that comes up out of his suit. That's easier in a futuristic game or in a fantasy game. Not so easy in, say, like just a modern day gritty game, right? My personal sort of take on that is, don't be stuck. Don't be hoist on your own petard of idealism in gaming. If it helps the player experience to have a non-game UI element that helps steer you in the right direction, prevents frustration. Like there's a level of abstraction. Like it's there. We know it's there, right? We're looking at a screen. We know it's a game. Unlike the simulation we all live in right now, right? So I would say, like, don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good there. And in most of those cases, like, personally, like, I'm fine with yellow painted stones, right, or hand grips. But I think the alternative there would be, like, make it a non-diegetic game element, and don't be so, don't get twisted around the axle of, well, everything has to be in-world, because I am constructing a completely immersive experience, and I don't want to take you out by having a load screen or, whatever. Oh, did I see Old Man Hiver here? Old Man Hiver. Wait, there's a bunch of messages here I don't want to miss. So Wyatt, that was an answer to that question. Yeah, I mean, when I was actively in the games industry, playing games felt like a chore. Now that I've been out for several years, apart from consulting, I enjoy playing games again. I'm still playing Alan Wake 2. Talk about a game with a pacing problem. Talk about a game with diegetic elements that just should not have been diegetic. I'm having trouble understanding all the praise that was lavished on Alan Wake 2. The story is goofy. The pacing is atrocious. The gameplay is really, really redundant, repetitive, and not intuitive. They do some things really neat. They have some really cool moments, but that does not make a game for me, right? The moment-to-moment gameplay in Alan Wake 2 is awful, in my opinion. Some of the stuff they do, really cool. Moment-to-moment, crap. And I don't think I'll change my mind. I just went through, like, what I thought was, oh, this is the end of the game. Here, this must be the end of the game. And I completed that, and then all of a sudden, because you have some freedom on who you can play, I don't want to give away anything, who you can play and the order in which you play it. So I went from, what felt like this giant set piece moment that would be suitable to ending a game to just being in a hotel, walking around again with these strange abstract clues. And the mind place in Alan Wake 2 is awful. Awful. I like the idea, and a lot of games have a mind place now. It's like the thing. And it's a great way to sort of break up the pacing of your game and have a sort of a retreat, a place you can have a lot of action, and then you go into your mind place and maybe you solve some more cerebral puzzles there, right? Or just take a break to kind of think about what you're doing. But there aren't really any puzzles in the mind place here. And I found myself 99% of the time in the storyboard section, where you have, the pictures, the things you find, and you put them up on the corkboard and you draw, or you put red string, the trope of the red strings going from thing to thing. I was always doing that post hoc, So I was completing the stuff and then going back into this mind place and then putting the stuff together that I'd already done, which is boring as fuck. That was terrible. You think the game industry is fading? Do you mean in originality? I very much doubt it. I don't see that as being possible. I mean, it's suffered quite a bit this year in terms of layoffs, right? Evil Within. I mean, I did play Evil Within. Liked it a lot. Oh, I'm glad you liked this, Nightshade. Oh, thank you, Icarus. Hey, DMT. Old Man Hiver, here we go. Yeah, I agree. Although I have to say, Buffalo 66 was not my idea. But I do like those kinds of dynamics. I've wanted to do a Paris, Texas video for a long time. But I want to get it right. So mini maps are their own I hate mini maps. I can't tell you the number of times like I've found myself playing a game and I notice I'm just staring at the mini map. Totally not in the world at all. It might as well be a 2D top-down game that I'm playing, right? There's got to be a better way. Diegetic, non-diegetic stuff? Yeah, no, you're right. And yeah, it doesn't have to be all or nothing, right? There can be cues that are technically diegetic, even if they're not realistic, right? Okay, so Jonathan, I'm going to say no. I'm going to say I loved the Control universe and that whole SCP thing. And I enjoyed the gameplay of Control. Why didn't Alan Wake take that, use that? And I don't think the lore tie-ins to Control were very, unless there's something like and I don't think there is, like huge there's left to reveal. Like there were a couple of emails, like the lowest hanging fruit of how to tie in or create a gaming universe, right? And then there were these houses where you had to put the dolls and you would shift reality. I mean, if we're going to say like shifting reality is the tie into Control, fine. Throwing a couple of characters in there and saying that the FBC was there, it did not feel very tied into me. It felt like an afterthought. GTA, I'm looking forward to GTA. Born and raised in Miami. I'm looking forward to cruising around the old hometown. I did play Dredge. Yeah, I did like it. I didn't love it, but I liked it. It didn't sell. Yeah, I heard this, but I mean, it got all the accolades. That and Baldur's Gate 3, obviously. Well, that just pisses me off, Jonathan. Right? This has been a thing for nigh on 2 decades at this point. single player gaming going by the wayside, and everybody doubling down on MMOs. I mean, the moment World of Warcraft came out, people were predicting the end of single player games. So I don't know. I think it ebbs and flows, probably. So there's an example, Life is Strange, of a game that had a amazing sense of place, so much so that I was willing to overlook everything horrible about it, which was almost everything else. And it gave me like this nostalgic feeling when I was playing it that I don't remember the last game that I played that did that for me. Life is Strange, fantastic. I don't know. I have not played this. I watch Tim Kane's videos. Yeah, give you a lot of insight into Fallout and the bit of animus he has towards ZeniMax Bethesda. But I worked with a bunch of those people. I worked with Zeb Cook, who was, instrumental both in early D&D and Fallout 2, I think. I don't think he worked on Fallout 1. Worked with Lawrence Schick, who went on to do, was I think the principal narrative writer in Baldur's Gate 3. I worked with a bunch of those people who I idolized. And I remember even when Zeb Cook came in to interview when we were hiring people for Elder Scrolls, hearing his name at the table, as it was being, we were being told we were interviewing this person, and they said, David Cook, and I looked at him, I yelled Zeb, and everybody looked at me. Yeah. I don't know what to say to that. You always thought of me as a Vancouver or Minnesota type guy. I guess I'm glad you didn't think of me as a Miami type guy, although I don't really know what that means either. Yeah, agreed. Just and Last of Us did that too. Although I have been a fan of Santalalo since Babel. Yeah. The just like that theme definitely stuck with me. Obviously. Oh wow. Moss and mist can heal all wounds. I love that. Yeah, I played Outer Wilds a bit, but I could not get into it. Yeah, I mean, moving out of Miami, one of the first things I had to really kind of get used to was the fact that it's not just that Miami's flat, it's that there are no primary growth trees left in Florida, really. It's all like secondary growth and tertiary growth, short trees. You get out of Florida and all of a sudden you have, trees that gave me a real sense of claustrophobia. And even driving like hilly areas with the trees coming in, I used to get panic attacks from it when I first moved to Georgia. This is a long time ago, obviously. And then I moved back to Florida, and then I moved to Baltimore when I went to work at Bethesda ZeniMax. And it happened again. Just terrifying, frankly. I'm good with it now, though. I've been here long enough. Hey, Rusty. So many memories talking about Life is Strange. Is that party lifestyle? Well, I mean, yeah, that's Miami Beach, though. We would occasionally, when I was younger, go to Miami Beach on the weekends, but I was not a Miami Beach kind of person, in case you didn't know. Oh, he does. Like, I play him the Cradle song, and I play him it's Paul Simon, Shriekback's the Cradle song. Peace Like a River. I try to play him stuff to get him to go to sleep. He definitely has a huge preference for his mother. But I'm trying not to take that personally. Yeah, I'll play him stuff like that. When I can. Baltimore, rightly so. I'm not sure what you're referring to there. Oh, that's sweet, Jonathan. Thank you. Yeah, no, I don't hold it against him. Modern day garbage. Post music covers photos. Start doing music for us. Better than... Yeah, I do. So, I mean, I like some modern day music. I lament the passing of, like, the band dynamic. But that's just me because I'm old. Like, missing the idea of getting together with a bunch of friends and just making stuff and thinking it's good, or only caring what the other people, you're in the band with think, you know. That was always, well, I had to drink to get on stage, but a lot of my courage came from the fact that I was in bands with people that I really respected. So if they liked something, that was often, you know, enough for me to be like, well, these people like it, so that's really all I care about. Old Man Ivor. I mean, metal and classical are not really that far apart in structure, in, you know, techniques, tremolo, like I don't know, like, and I started with classical before I, you know, severed tendons, which is why I had to play Recuerdos de la Alhambra with 2 fingers, which is real pain. Should be able to play it with 3, but like my ring finger on my right hand is very weak. So do what I can. I like this too. Like just not caring, right, about like I mean, there's always like a, you know, something goes down, something goes up. So, you know, when there were bands, there was a lot of tribalism, right? Like the dynamic of a band kind of lends itself to that. Now there's a lot more individualism, right? A lot more Aphex Twinny kind of things going on. The kind of stuff that, kind of music that really needs to be auteured, but at the cost of, it's just different. It's just different. 80s music is fucking amazing though, isn't it? 80s music is fantastic. Like I can go back to that well, you know, forever. Yeah, most decades have. See, this is where I just don't know if it's like my lack of knowledge or my bah humbuggish nature. Like, are people going to romanticize like the 2010s in the same way? Are the 2000s as romanticized? Like I kind of feel like the 90s, although the 90s were sort of really even like the late 90s, early aughts were my decade for music. I kind of feel like that was when shit got worse. And all the bands I used to hate and rag on they were fantastic. They were doing amazing stuff, and I didn't understand it. Oh, I watch Professor Rock. I like his glasses. I'm not such a fan of this trend that a lot of YouTube creators seem to have latched onto now, where they're essentially just reading Wikipedia to you and having some, you know, one of their editors pop up some. It's like Wikipedia for people with ADD, right? Not a fan of that. Like, if you're gonna dive into something, if you're gonna make a YouTube video essay, dive into that shit. Like, don't spit something out every couple of days. It's just like, literally feels like you're just reading the Wikipedia page on it. Ugh. This is true, Lars. Grass is always greener. Yeah, I watch a lot of Rick Beato, right? He's good. He's he's got some gits, um, and he has a good understand, a really good understanding of music theory. So I enjoy listening to him. Professor of Rock is not so much on the theory side, right? He's more, um, I don't know. I guess when I listen to Professor Rock, I feel like he's filling time, and I don't like that. I feel like I have to skip around. Here's something else that happens in a lot of YouTube videos that I've noticed. Perhaps you've noticed this as well. But you can go to, obviously, like in a timeline. I'm sure this is rolled out to everyone by now. You can see like the most played areas. There's sort of like a little histogram along the timeline of every video. And I've noticed with a lot of videos, and I know there's a nefarious reason behind this, the ads for those videos are the most watched parts, which makes no sense at all unless there is some farming group that is actually hitting those ads to make it look like they're being more effective than they are, which makes me wonder about the channels where I see that and what they're doing to sort of promote themselves or to increase their ad revenue. Interesting. Next time you see a video that has sponsors in the video, and check the most recently played, or I'm sorry, the most played sections, because it's not all videos. It's weird, even like on a channel, but there's some videos where it matches up perfectly. It's just where the ads are, where the ad reads are by far the most rewatched. And I'm not talking about videos with 1,000 views. I'm talking about videos with hundreds of thousands of views here. So if they're gaming it, they're gaming it big time. Oh, we got our third thumbs down. Fantastic. It does not look like it's people skipping to just after the ads. I don't know how they interpolate to get like a nice smooth line like that. Maybe you're right. Like maybe if I skip to after the ad, maybe. But it peaks in the middle of the ad, like each time. So I don't know. But maybe you're right, Alex. Listen, The Last of Us or The Walking Dead. There's another new Walking Dead series coming out. Talk about milking a dead horse. And this is crazy to think about, that this was childhood for people. Andrew Lincoln's still out there killing it. Nobody remembers him from Love Actually anymore, do they? I love, I don't know how to pronounce his name, Yorgos Lathimos. I don't know. Have not had a chance to see Poor Things yet. Will probably see it. I guess I was hoping, it was hoping it would come to streaming sooner than it has. I haven't seen many movies recently that I've liked much. Although I did, on a recommendation, start watching a show that I would never in 1,000 years would I have watched the show without a recommendation. It stars Andrew Daly, who I don't like. Like, he always plays the sort of the straight stuffed shirt in everything he's in. And the name of the show is called Review, which is just terrible because, like, search Review. You're never going to get the show name. It's even hard to actually look up anything about the show because Review is just so bland in general. But the idea is that he reviews life. So he reviews life experiences that get sent into him by through email or Twitter or whatever, X. And it does some really, really funny things with that premise. And it's turned around my opinion of Andrew Daly, and I really enjoy it. Yeah. And there's a show that the premise seems very superficial and top level, But talk about like sense of place, right? Like they will harken back to things they did earlier as this character is progressing through his life, doing these things that have, some of them do irreparable harm to his life, right? Um, it's fascinating. Have I seen Over the Garden Wall? I don't know. I want to say no. Well, yeah. Yeah. Vin Diesel too. Really. I have not watched this either. I've been watching. I will say, I do think like the latest. I know this is stupid to say. The latest season of Rick and Morty is quite good. Specifically, the very last episode of season 7, which is a take on a book. Fuck. I think it's called Cipher. And it's about a hole, like a mystical, not mystical, sort of a dark hole that's found in a house. And nobody really knows what it does or what comes out of it or why it's there. And I think Rick and Morty did a really good take on that idea. You're kidding me. I'm worried I'm going to say it and it's going to phonetically mean something awful. Minchota? You know, was George Lucas, was he a genius or an overachiever? I don't know. Is Star Wars good because like the vast majority of people who saw it romanticized it to the point where it is now like sort of like the word Metallica, right, for a band name. It's a terrible band name, but everybody thinks it's great because we've just now associated so much with a band who's they are incredible. Holy shit, this is true too? I don't dive into this. I never read any of was it Timothy Zahn who did a bunch of those? I do know that George Lucas wanted to have a Darth Insanus and just some kind of really cheesy stuff. Yeah, the Harrison Ford quote. George, you might be able to write this stuff, but I sure as hell can't say it. Seems right. Hey, Grace. Yeah, I was talking about that earlier, actually, and I got sidetracked. I'm not sure if I made my point. Yeah, Jodie Foster's really good. Her partner's really good. I don't like, oh my God, what's his name? The guy who played Teardrop in Winter's Bone. I forget his name. I'm not a fan of his character's portrayal. It's pretty thin. And I just don't like the direction it's going in some of these things. Although I've heard people say that it's, they don't like that it's gone supernatural. I don't know that it has gone supernatural yet. And I really wouldn't care if it did. That'd be okay. Scrabble hands, yeah. Oh yeah, that's true. I don't know. I like that. I like Darth Nihilus. Come on. The Cantina music, yeah. Yeah, I remember hearing about this. Yeah. It's hard to know, right? Like that movie has been so heavily crowdsourced, essentially, at this point. I think the complaint with True Detective going supernatural was that once, this was Joyce Carol Oates' take, once you introduce the supernatural to a strict mystery, logic can no longer, you can no longer deduce the solution via logic because the supernatural supersedes that, which, if you want to, if your goal, and if you see True Detective as a whodunit, then yeah, okay, I could see that upsetting you, but I don't see True Detective as a whodunit. I didn't see the first season of True Detective as a whodunit. And the second season was awful, and the third season was meh. I think that this is, it's not saying much, will be the second best season of True Detective. I know I hear True Detective season 1 getting a lot of hate now, and I think that's whatever. You're entitled to be wrong. A dialogue in the sense of place, not to keep harping on that, right? But feeling like you were really there. I don't know that it gets better than True Detective, whether it's a movie or a TV show. We got a 4 thumbs down. Fantastic. That's possibly the most that I've had. Joy. They're probably X's. Do I find it annoying when I figure out the ending to a mystery in a show movie before it happens? Only if it's completely blatant. If I'm pretty sure, if I have a good idea and I think it's going a certain way, and it does, I feel great about it. If it's so blatant that it becomes kind of cringy, right? Yeah, I think it's not HBO anymore. It's Max. The worst rebrand ever. I understand why you're calling it HBO, because the bumpers still say HBO, and everybody knows it by HBO, and yet it's called Max. But yeah, Max is worth it. As all streaming services now, starting with Amazon, right, are now introducing. You're paying for them, but you're still getting commercials. Max is not doing that. Probably will follow suit. And then where are we? We're not only are we back to where we were with cable, but now we're at cable where we're still getting commercials and paying for it. It's the worst of all possible worlds. Oh my gosh, Erebus. That's sweet. Thank you. I hope you're doing okay. Hope everything's okay with you. Well, one of the thumbs downs disappeared. So I'm sort of upset about that. What is this about? We're talking about Alice, Crowley. We're talking about Doctor Who. By the way, Christopher Eccleston is in the new season of True Detective. You might not recognize him. Yeah, I think it's ridiculous. They're making money hand over fist. They're not paying royalties in the way that they should. It was kind of an unspoken agreement. And now they're reneging on their part of the deal. They're just testing the waters to see how much they can take away. And it's interesting, like, people are very worried about AI for like a whole lot of reasons. Probably the reason I'm worried about it, and well, not just me, right? Tons of people are, its ability to further consolidate that kind of power. You need fewer and fewer people to do it. So, Yeah, do it. I mean, you know, 20 years ago, maybe, that's all I did was pirate stuff. That's all I did. Hey, Anna, I hope you're doing okay. Have I ever heard of a game called Death Stranding? Of course I have. Played it. Honestly, I got a little bored of it and then stopped and then was like, well, I'll pick it up later and then never did. I've seen the ads for Death Stranding 2. I may give it a shot. I don't know. Because I know everybody is interested in my take on the Apple Vision Pro. Um, I think they actually have the power to push independent developers to create the ecosystem that Oculus and Vive were never able to really do, and even Meta couldn't do it. But I think because Apple is, their image is cool, right? Meta's image was never cool. So I feel like they will be able to get enough applications that warrant a niche of people, enough people buying the Apple Vision Pro for it to kind of support itself. I'm interested in the version 4, version 5 maybe. But some of the ideas are great, and there's it's a wild west out there, right? Like there's plenty of ideas to explore. Their pass-through technology something has to be done with that. Something with those cars where they polarize the actual glass to make it darker or lighter, kind of like Sony does with its ND filters. There's got to be a better way than a low resolution OLED of your own eyes, or a 3D representation of your own eyes. It's not even a picture of your own eyes. It's an image of the avatar eyes that are created for you, that look nothing like the ad, right? Just look ridiculous. A short hike. I might look at that. Yeah, they sure are really kind of harping on spatial computing, aren't they? It's definitely spatial. It's definitely not VR. It's definitely not AR. It's spatial computing. Now, the way that it integrates with, Macs is pretty amazing. The fact that it can only do one monitor is a little weird to me, but I understand there's got to be limitations, right? And I could see it being very useful in certain situations that I probably will never find myself in. I'll wait for the price to come down, right? I wouldn't let that guy near me with anything. Like I wouldn't want that guy in the same room as my son or my daughter or my sister. Much less would I let anything that he oversaw or thought was a cool idea or somehow had control over, right? Near me. No. Nah, he can kick rocks as far as I'm concerned. I'm glad. That's why I pirated. It was, I felt like I was being an archivist and A lot of these things would be lost to the ages if I didn't immediately download them. Yeah, I mean, so like it's strange how old the idea of VR is, right? And some of the ideas of what you can do with VR. It's strange how old those ideas are. 60, 70, 100 years old. Easy. You could find people writing about them. So the ideas aren't new, right? Yeah, which a younger me, reading William Gibson and Neil Stevenson would have welcomed with open arms. But Elon Musk is a narcissist and about half as smart as he thinks he is. I wouldn't count on him to save the human race, certainly. Yeah, I mean, I give him some credit for some things, for just his single-mindedness of vision once he latches onto an idea he likes, but piece of shit. He's a piece of shit. Yeah, he was homeless, right? Yeah. Oh boy. Anyway, yeah, so this was just a quick update. I have not been on in a while, and I wanted to say hi to everybody, and now I'll say goodnight and hope I see you all again sometime soon. Take care. Sweet dreams.